experimenting.
Okay, you're recording.
We're going to try to videotape. Did you hit the red button?
Yeah.
All right, testing. I'm going to try to videotape my lectures and then post them for my online students to look at. So I know what you're thinking. Cool, I don't have to go to class. I'll just wait for them. I'm not posting them for you guys. Just the online class. So yeah, you have to be. But it's kind of funny because they give me this 30-pound tripod and a camera this big. Right? So it has to sit there, and it has to be this close, and every day I'll have somebody turn it on and turn it off, and that's hopefully all you have to do. But it does restrict my movement here. It's only going to hit about as wide as the screen is. So I'll be doing more erasing and rewriting than usual, so you have to be quicker at getting the notes down before I move on to the next thing. So before I start going through the syllabus, I'll introduce myself, kind of tell you a little bit about me, and then we'll start down through here, and I'll tell you what you can expect as the semester goes along. Okay? My name is Mike Mosier. It's on the syllabus there, and this is my 10th year, starting my 10th year at Washburn. Prior to that, I taught at a community college for a while, and then decided I wanted to teach at university level, so I went back and got a PhD in statistics, and then got lured into industry by the difference in salary. And I spent 6 years working for a pharmaceutical company. And so, now I'm really glad that I did that, because I have industry experience that I can bring to the classroom and talk about, things from the perspective of what is actually going on out there, and have that understanding. After that company was in Kansas City. It was a company called Marion Laboratories. Have anybody heard of that? No, I didn't think so. It was owned by Ewing Kauffman. Have you heard of him? No? You've heard of it? Okay, good. He's the guy that owned, he's dead now, but he owned the Kansas City Royals. And the way he got the money to do things like own a baseball team, especially a losing team, he started a pharmaceutical company and built it up from ground level, and it was known as Marion Labs. And then right after I started there, it got bought by somebody, and it became Marion Merrill Dow, and then it got bought by somebody and became Hertz Mary Marcel, and then it got bought by somebody and it became something else and something else. And today it's not even in Kansas City anymore, it's in New Jersey, and it's called Sanofi Aventis. So the name is completely changed, but it's the same company. Part of the reason that I got out of there was because of all that. I'm a Kansan, born and bred. I wasn't going to move to New Jersey, so I got hired then at KU Medical Center, and I worked there for 3 years, and I was a biostatistician, which means basically doing statistical research on medical projects in the biological sciences. So most of my background is in medicine and health kind of related stuff. So a lot of examples that I'll come up with in class will be from that perspective. So some of you that aren't in those fields are going to think, man, is he ever going to say anything about business? Or whatever. I'll try to remember to do that. And the book does a fairly good job of doing that and letting you see the use of statistics in different fields. But just know that everything that you learn can be applied in whatever area you're interested in. And most people come into statistics, and the question that I love to get the most is, what am I ever going to do with this crap? Right? And the answer is a lot more than you think you will at this point. Most students, before you get out of Washburn, have to do some kind of a research project in one class or another. And if you do the WTE, which you guys lucked out and they made optional now, right? But the WTE, you'll almost guaranteed you'll do statistical analysis of data that you collect if you do any kind of a research project. Right? So I regularly get questions from former students that say, hey, I have to do this research project. Can you help me figure out how to do it? And I love getting those kind of questions. So as you go through, just keep that in the back of your mind that you don't have to remember all this stuff. You just have to remember what book it's in and who to call. As long as you have a little bit of background information, then you can get yourself through and you can figure out how to do those kind of projects. my goal by the end of the semester is to make you love this stuff so much that you want to switch majors and become an actuarial science major, which doesn't sound like statistics, but it's a field of study, or it's a career that has uses a lot of statistics, but it uses a lot of business stuff too. So a lot of the really sharp business students end up wanting to switch to actuarial science because the salary's better. You get really good at something that's hard and that most people don't like, and you become valuable. So it's a good career choice. All right, let's talk about the syllabus a little bit. All of my contact information is on the syllabus. I won't go through all that, but I will say that my email address up there is probably the best way to communicate outside of class. I have office hours listed there, and so during those times, you'll be able to catch me in my office almost for sure. Occasionally, I might have a meeting or something, but I always try to keep those out of the office hours. I don't have any office hours posted on Tuesdays or Thursdays because I'm not teaching on those days, and I still do a lot of consulting with companies and things like that, so I try to put those kind of meetings on those days. So a lot of times I'm not on campus, but most of the Tuesdays and Thursdays I am. So if you walk by and you see my office door open, then feel free to stop in. Doesn't matter if it's during one of those office hours or not. Okay. If you are going to have to travel to campus to meet with me specifically at a time other than office hour, then I recommend that you call ahead and make an appointment, or do it by email. Right? You don't want to drive 20 minutes and get here and, well, he's not in today. So that's the only thing. Just for your information, I'm usually around, but if I'm not, you can ask email questions that actually work very well. So textbook we already talked about. You will need to get the access code that lets you log on to the Course Compass, which is the online homework tool, and that's separate from the book. And as we talked about earlier, that gives you access to an electronic book, so that may be a good option for you. The book isn't cheap. It's like 80 bucks used, 160 bucks new. But if you buy the new one, it comes with the access code. If you buy the $80 book, you still have to buy the $70 or $75 access code, so it ends up about the same. But online, you can find maybe better deals. But just know you've got to get the access code. You're also required to get a TI-83 or TI-84 calculator. Okay, it looks like this. A lot of people come up early in the semester and say, well, I don't have a TI-83 or 84, but I got a TI something else, and it looks a lot like that one. And some of them will work, most of them won't. It has to have the statistics package. That's the important thing. So it has to have the functions in it that will do all the statistical methodology that we'll do as we go through the semester. And it'll make things a ton easier if you have the calculator. The book teaches all this stuff on the calculator. Here's how you do it. If you don't have the calculator, here's how you do it. And I don't teach that part because we make you get the calculator, so I don't have to go through everything twice. Right? The way to do it without the calculator is always a lot harder and a lot more time consuming. So you have to have the calculator. If you try to take one of my tests without it, you'll be in serious trouble. You probably get through the homework okay, but you wouldn't be able to finish an exam in time if you didn't have it. Okay? All right, before I'll just let you read the objectives in the syllabus, and then I'll talk a little bit about this. The points in the class, there will be 3 midterm exams, and they're roughly spaced at about 4-week intervals. So about 4 weeks from today, you're going to have your first exam. Okay. The dates for the exams are already in here. Tentatively, I reserve the right to move them around as we need to, but for the most part, they should be stable. The homework is going to count 20% of your grade. That's equal to one of those tests. So 3 tests, each at 20%, makes 60%. Homework is 20%, and then the final is 20%. So everything's weighted equally. And I grade on a straight 90, 80, 70 scale. So, you know, since I'm a statistician, everything's by the numbers. So if you have 89.1, that's a B. Now I do round to the nearest percentage. So 89.5 will get you an A. Right? But, you know, don't think that, well, you know, I'm a nice guy, I'm sure he likes me, I got an 87, I bet I'll get an A. Because it's just, whatever the number is, that's what you're going to get. Okay? I don't allow any subjectivity in it, I just don't feel like that's fair. So the thing you need to do is make sure as you go through the whole semester that you're keeping track of where you sit on those border lines. If you're comfortably above where you want to be, then no worries. If you're a little bit below, you know you need to get all the points possible from that point on. Talk a little bit about your commitment in the class and your attendance. I'll start a lot of sentences this semester just like this. Research has shown. That's what we do in statistics. We talk about research. We analyze data from research problems. The research has shown that most college students decide how much time they're going to invest in a particular course within the first 2 weeks of that class. Right? And you've all been there. You go in the first couple of days of class like, this is easy. All right, I got an easy class. So then, you know, already mentally you've carved out minimum amount of time for that class. And you go into your Calc 1 class or your Chem 1 class. Ooh, this is a tough one. I'm going to need lots of hours for this class, so you carve those out. Statistics will fool you. The first chapter of the book is a piece of cake. The second chapter is still pretty easy. The third chapter, the proverbial wheels come off, and it gets much more difficult. And from then on, everybody's scrambling. And if you've decided, I only need a couple hours a week, I can keep up with my statistics, and you don't change that when we hit chapter 3, then life is going to be difficult and you're not going to be a happy camper. So make the decision now that you're going to do this. 6 to 9 hours per week for every 1 hour that you're in class. And they say that about all the classes, but you know, there's some classes you don't need that much. This class you will need that much. Right? It's a full-time job. If you're taking 15 hours and working 30 hours a week, I wouldn't want your life. Right? Because you figure you're in class 15 hours, and you're supposed to spend 3 hours for every hour outside the class. That's 45 hours. 15 plus 45, I'm already way over the 40-hour work week. And now you're going to work 30 hours on top of that. Like I said, I wouldn't want your life. So, you know, just know that you're going to have to commit a lot of time to this class. Attendance is so critical. Research has shown that and these are all words that you're going to hear all semester, there's a high correlation between the grade that a student gets in college, their GPA, and the number of missed classes. And it's a negative correlation. What does that mean? As one goes up, the other goes down. As the number of missed classes goes up, the GPA goes down. If you just come to class, that's the biggest thing you can do. The biggest thing you can do. The second biggest thing, read the dang book. We just talked about how expensive this was, and tuition is incredibly expensive. Someone said to me one time, this is so true, but it's funny, that a college campus is the only place they've ever seen where people pay huge amounts of money to get something and then try to sneak out without taking it. Don't go to class, don't read the book, you know. You paid for it. Get what you paid for. Get that education. Okay, I talked about homework a little bit. The homework will be done using the course compass, also known as My Math Lab, MML. The My Math Lab, I showed that one, or showed the link to that one document that says how to log on to that. So if you get that document, open it up, it'll tell you step by step how to do it. I'm not going to go through it in class. It's pretty self-explanatory, but if you do have trouble, you get confused, or your computer's not acting like it's supposed to act, then let me know and I can help walk you through that. And I've had better success. The publisher and the people that run that site actually do a very good job with support. So when you say, I need help, you can usually get an answer pretty quickly. Right? But I find that I can get an answer quicker than students get an answer. Right? Because they have my name on a list that, hey, this guy buys so many of our textbooks every semester and blah, blah, blah. They respond to me quicker. So if you're having trouble, let me know and I'll email them, and then I can usually get an answer quicker than you can if it's something that I don't know how to do. The way we'll work the homework, this is the first semester I'm going to do this, but they have a new version of the My Math Lab that allows me to set a due date on a homework assignment, but then allow you to, even if the due date goes by, you can continue to work on it. You just get a points deduction. So what I've set it up to do is it'll always be due at midnight on the day of the next class after I teach a section. Huh? What I said was, if I teach section 1.1 next Wednesday, and that's what the syllabus says I'm going to do, then on Friday, which is the next class period after I taught the section, at midnight, that homework will be due. That lets you have 2 full days to get the homework done, and a whole class period that you can come into class and say, hey, I tried this one problem, I couldn't figure out how to do it, can you show me? And then you can go home that evening and get it finished up by midnight. Now, early in the semester, there's always people saying, I completely forgot I had a homework assignment due. I don't like this online stuff, I can't remember to do it. Right? So you got to get over that real quick. Don't forget when there's homework due. Almost every day that we have class, there'll be homework due that night by midnight. Just remember that. Okay? The way it's set up now is that even if you miss the deadline, you can continue to do the homework, but you'll lose 5% every day. So instead of getting 100%, if you wait till the next day, you'll get 95%. If you wait for 3 days, you get 85%. So on. And it goes down pretty quickly. You start dropping letter grades, right? But at least you can get it done. You can use the homework assignment to practice for your test. In the online homework, there is a button. There's lots of buttons, right? But there's a button that says, help me solve this. So it's like you click on that and it'll show a problem almost identical to the one you're working on and say, okay, then you do this and then you do this, and it'll walk you through it. And then you go do the one that you're trying. If that fails, there's a button below that one that says, ask my instructor. You click that, and what it does is it sends me an email. And it sends me not only an email, but it sends me a link that I can pull up the page you're looking at. So use that. If you have a question on your homework, don't just send me a generic email and say, hey, I'm working on problem number 3 of the homework set, and I don't know how to do it. Instead, go into Course Compass and click on Ask My Instructor, because then I can pull it up and say, oh, I see what you did wrong. Right? It helps me. And email actually works very good at getting questions answered like that. I will allow you to miss 3 of those homework assignments. There'll be like 35 of them by the time we get through the whole semester. There's one over every single section. So about 10% of those, 3 of them, I'm going to let you miss for whatever reason and not affect your grade. I'll just replace that score with your average, your overall average. When you miss the 3rd one, now it's a 0 in the grade book. It doesn't take very many of those zeros before it starts to pile up and your homework grade is way below where it ought to be. Okay. Now, a little bit about your homework grade. With Course Compass and the way it's set up, there is no excuse for anybody in this room to get less than 95% on their homework. Because, I probably shouldn't even tell you this, but you'll figure it out soon enough. Yeah. When you get it all done, you've gone through all the problems and you hit submit, you get a grade. If you don't like that grade, you can do it again. As long as the due date hasn't expired, you can redo it and it'll update your score. You can keep doing it until you get 100%. Every semester I get quite a few people that have 100% on their homework. Now remember how much homework was worth? 20% of your grade. It's equal to an exam. You go into a class now with 4 exams and one of them is 100%. That helps. So every semester there are students that maybe have a C average on all their exams, but their homework grade was 100%, and it pulls them up to a B. They get a B in the class. Guess what else happens every semester? There's students that have a B average on all their tests, but never do the homework. They have a 15% on their homework. That averages in just like a test. They get a C in the class, maybe even a D in the class, when they should have got a B. So use the homework the way it's intended. It's supposed to bring your grade up. Don't let it bring your grade down. Don't be one of those people that blows off the homework. Okay? Exams. Like I said a minute ago, there's going to be 3 exams. And I am a real stickler about taking the exam when you're supposed to. One of my pet peeves is having to schedule 15 makeup exams. They're hard to schedule. They're a pain in the behind. So be here when you're supposed to take the test. Don't decide, oh, I don't really feel like I'm ready to take the test. I'm going to call in sick. Right? If you want to do that, then I'm going to say, show me your doctor's note. So if you're going to fake being sick, you better fake it good. And get downstairs and see the doctor and get a note, because you're going to need that note in order to make up the exam. Okay? If you had a car wreck on the way to take the test, and that does happen, that's fine. Just show me the police report. All right? Then you can make up the exam. If you're away on a school-sponsored trip, like play on the football team or the volleyball team or something like that, or you're in the band, then that's fine. I usually get emails from the coaches and the directors of those things saying these students will be gone. And that's enough documentation. But just double check that that email came. Did you know I'm going to be gone this Friday or whatever? All right. For most of us, there shouldn't be any reason we ever have to miss an exam. Okay. Oh, the last thing on this page is about your official email address. That is your Washburn email account. That's the one I will email you at. If you prefer some other email account, you can forward the Washburn one into that. Okay? It is considered your official communication. So if your inbox gets full and it stops accepting new messages and you don't get my email that says, by the way, the test is tomorrow, then that's your fault. All right? That's the university thinks that that's enough. All I got to do is email, and that's enough notice on anything. Now, I would never actually do that to you. You'll always have at least a week's notice on when the test is, and I'll say it over and over in class and by email, and so you'll have plenty of warning. But just know that your email is where communications are going to happen. So here's the course schedule. And this is in that same document, so you'll want to download this. It shows that today, section 0.0. I'm not going to cover any section of the book. Wednesday, we'll start with section 1.1. And then at the top it says problems listed are practice problems. Practice does not mean the same thing as I don't have to do. Got it? Practice problems mean these are the problems that you'll need to do in order to be prepared for the exam. The online homework, unfortunately, doesn't give me that many questions to choose from. And it might give me, 3 of them out of a whole section. Whereas in the book, at the end of the section, there might be 30 problems there. And they put 3 of them up online for me to choose from. Well, you might get tested over more than just those 3. So these are the other ones that you need to be ready for. So if it's listed here as a practice problem, it's a candidate to be a test question. And on every single exam, at least one of the questions on the exam is verbatim one of these problems. Right? It's like a freebie. If you take the initiative to do the practice problems, then here's one that you know you will have seen before. The rest of them aren't verbatim, but they're close. They're similar to the ones that I tell you to work on these practice problems. The online homework are different. They're the same questions, but they have to make them so that a computer can do it. Right? So one of the complaints I always get at the end of the semester during course evaluations is, the tests were nothing like the online homework. That's true. That's a valid complaint. Right? The online homework is set up, they're all multiple choice. Well, no, they're not all multiple choice. Sometimes you type a number into a box. Right? But a lot of them are multiple choice, and you click option D and it says, sorry, that is incorrect. Try again. Hey, cool. You click, oh, I got it right. You don't get penalized for having that wrong guess. Right? Like I said, there's no excuse for not doing well on the homework. When I give you a test, it ain't like that. If it's a multiple choice problem, then you get one shot at it. Most of them won't be multiple choice problems. They'll be, you read this paragraph and figure out what you're supposed to do and work a problem. And the online homework isn't that way. It has to lead you through step by step. First do this step, what's your answer? Now do this step, what's your answer? And you can look at it and figure out, okay, this is one of those problems where you do this step, this step, this step, and this step. Whereas on the test, it's work this problem. And you got to know what the steps are. It's different, harder. So before every exam, we will have a practice exam that I'll hand out. I'll hand it out a few days in advance, and then we'll go through that during a review session. We always have a review session right before an exam. And we'll go through those practice tests. And they are very similar to what you'll get in the classroom situation. Okay? Any questions on the syllabus? No? All right. Then let me pull up this document real quick. This is the instructions for how to log on and get registered for my math lab. And like I said, you need to do this right away. If you haven't got your access code yet, you can buy it right online when you go to do it, as long as you have a credit card. It'll ask you, do you have an access code? If you say no, it'll say, do you want to buy one? Say yes, and you don't have to go to the bookstore, you don't have to purchase it anywhere else, but you do have to have a credit card to be able to do that. Otherwise, you can get the access code at the bookstore, and as you walk down through the steps, you'll eventually get to a place where it says enter your access code. You'll type it in, and you'll be off and running. The website is in this document. It's just coursecompass.com. The course ID is my last name and then followed by 5 digits. All right, so you'll need that course ID. Then it wants to know, like, school's zip code, where's the school located, and a valid email address. I don't care what email address you use there. It can be your Washburn one or it can be some other one. It doesn't really affect me. But if I were you, I'd just get in the habit of always using my Washburn email to do course-related stuff, because then you don't have to try to keep track of more than one place. Where did I put that one? So that's the email address that if you hit Ask My Instructor, when I hit reply, that's where it's going to go. All right, I'm not going to talk through all the steps, but they're all there, and it's very self-explanatory. It'll just, you click a button, it'll then pop up, okay, now do this, and you'll be all set up. It's important that you get that set up very quickly, because you will have an assignment. Your first assignment will be to do this coming Friday. Okay? One more thing to talk about before I call the roll. Is your first project. If you're lucky, it'll be your only project this semester other than homework. I always start off the very beginning of the semester and have the students collect some data. This gives us a data set with real data in it that we can use through the whole semester to analyze and illustrate some points with. Textbook data sets are nice, and this author actually does a very good job of using real data that's been collected. It's not made up textbook data. But it's kind of nice to have data that you were involved in the collection of and a little more familiar with the data. So what you're going to do here, download this set of instructions. And then your grade on this, it's worth 10 points. It's not a homework set. So remember earlier I said you could drop 3 homework sets, you could drop your lowest 3. This one don't count. Right? This is a project, not a homework. So this one you have to do. If you don't do it, you miss those 10 points and it's a 0 out of 10 in your homework grade. Okay? It'll be due this Friday by 10 p.m. Okay? So you got a few days to do it. What I want you to do is I want you to collect data on 5 people. That's 4 people and yourself. You can use yourself. Okay? So here it lists all the variables that I want you to collect, and I'll let you read this in detail, but there's a couple of them I want to talk about. One of the things that you're supposed to collect is smoking status, and another is exercise status. And those are what you'll learn in a couple of days are categorical variables, and those are yes-no variables. Right? Basically, are you a smoker? Yes or no? Do you exercise? Yes or no? Well, questions like that you'll learn have ambiguous answers sometimes. Right? Are you a smoker? Well, there was that one time back in high school. Yeah, I'm a smoker. Right? And then somebody else, gosh, I'm not even up to a pack a day yet. I'm not a smoker. So you have to be, when you do research, you have to think through, now is everybody I ask going to interpret this question the same way? And so take all the doubt out of it. Tell them what you mean. By a smoker, I mean, do you smoke at least 1 cigarette per day? If you smoke at least 1 every day, then you're a smoker. That's the well-accepted standard for nicotine addiction. And that's what we're after here. People that are addicted to nicotine. Okay? Exercise status is kind of the same thing. That means different things to different people. So if I ask you, do you exercise, and I don't explain what I mean by that, you might say, well, I park out here in the North 40 every day and I have to hike in 20 minutes to class. Yeah, I exercise. Well, that doesn't count. What we mean is 20 minutes at a time, at least 20 minutes, at least 3 days a week. And this is intent to exercise. It's not just I'm active during that time, but I'm putting on my little tights and I'm going down and I'm getting on the treadmill or whatever it is, right? Or I'm going to aerobics class, or I'm going out for a run, or riding my bike, or whatever. Okay? So it says there, exercise vigorously for at least 20 minutes, at least 3 times a week. Then they can answer that question yes. So make sure they know the question before you get their answer. Okay? Resting pulse. I want you to collect their resting pulse. And what do we mean by resting? Resting means they have to be seated for at least 5 minutes before you take the pulse. Okay? If somebody comes running up the stairs, comes in here and sits down, and I take their pulse, guess what? It's elevated because they just did all that exercise. But once they've been seated for 5 minutes, it'll come back down to its resting pulse level. Most of the mistakes we get on pulse are because they didn't follow the rules. They didn't let it become a resting pulse. Okay? And the way I want you to take it, does everybody know how to take pulse? Well, there's different ways to do it. What I want you to do is find their pulse, or actually they can do it. You don't have to touch them if you don't want to. But tell them to find their pulse, and then give them a go and a stop, and count for 30 seconds. Okay? 30 seconds, and then multiply that number by 2, and you got beats per minute. Don't do 15 seconds and multiply by 4, or 10 seconds and multiply by 6, because that adds a lot of air into it. It's not as accurate. But if you go 30 seconds, then that's pretty accurate. Okay? Everybody clear on that? And then there's a few other things like their health rating. Ask them to rate their health. How healthy do you think you are? Here's the scale, and read them the words, not the numbers. Don't say on a scale of 1 to 5, how healthy are you? Tell them on a scale of 1 to 5, where 1 is poor, 2 is fair, ... 5 is excellent. Okay? Let them give you, and there's always going to be those people that say, oh, I'm a 3.5. Just use one of the numbers I gave you, right? Pin them down. Make them use one of those numbers. Right? And if they say, well, I'm in the middle, pick them. Are you a little better or a little worse than Don't get any 0.5s in your data set. Now, once you've collected your data, what do you do with it? How do you get it to me? So this is the coolest thing ever, called Google Docs. Anybody have experience with Google Docs? There's a link right here, and it's a hot link, which means you can click on it and it'll just take you there. You may have to allow your computer to go to it like I just did. It pops up the spreadsheet. And what you're going to do is you're going to type your data in this. This data up here is example data from last semester. Right? Then I have a little sentence here to explain. And then I have an online section of this class, which is the reason I'm videotaping today. And they've already gotten started. So there's already some data in here. So what you're going to do, and this is explained in that sheet that I showed you a second ago, the different columns represent the different variables you're collecting. First column is your section. What section are you in? Now, do you guys know what your section is? C. Your section C. MA140 C. So that's what I mean by section. Okay? So you guys are section C. Then I want your initials. I don't want the initials of the person that you asked. I want your initials on all 5 of your observations. That way I can keep them together as one sample of size 5. Here's a sample of 5. Right? So then the rest of them are just the data you collect from the person. Their age, their gender, their height, their shoe size, and all that stuff. And just go down, just scroll down to the bottom of the document and type your 5 rows into it. Then when you, I don't know if there's even a save button. I think when you just X out of it, it's automatically saved in there. Now it's a bit strange. I don't know how this works. I'm not a computer person, but it's a shared document. And I've been looking, I did it in class one time. I pulled it up, I was teaching, and as we were watching, somebody started typing data into it. It's like, whoa, cool. But it worries me that what if 2 people are trying to type it in at exactly the same time? So if you do open it up and you notice, hey, someone's in there, just wait a little bit until they're done. Right? Wait till their 5 lines are in, and then you can start putting yours in. Okay?
If someone else is waiting at the same time.
Yeah, then that's where it's never been a problem, but this is only the 2nd semester I've used Google Docs. But just in case, I really don't trust it completely, so just in case, once you get your 5 rows typed in there, take the mouse, drag across, and hit copy. And then compose an email to me and paste it into that email. Then I got the data and I can reconstruct it in case one of you guys screws it all up and deletes all the data or whatever. And don't do that, by the way. It wasn't a problem last semester. It worked without a hitch, so that was great. Okay? Any questions about the assignment? Yeah?
If we're not 18, do we have to find a 5th person and we can't include ourselves, or?
Yes, that is correct.
Ah, okay.
You got to get a 5th person. You have to be a rarity, though. 17 years old. 16 years old. So, yeah, you got to get somebody who's 18. All right. Don't start banging your books and getting ready to go, because I am going to call the roll. But you can shut off the video now if you would. I won't make them watch me.